Before finding a home on Netflix, the drama Monster first debuted at Sundance in 2018. Is this worthy of your watch, or was there a reason it didn't get picked up until now? A smart, likable 17-year-old film student from Harlem sees his world turned upside down when he's charged with a murder. Steve Harmon is a talented and curious young man who looks at the majority of the world through a lens. He's an aspiring photographer and filmmaker, which frames a lot of the storytelling throughout this movie. Steve is our narrator, but because he's now on trial for murder, we have to decide if we can trust what he says. So Monster is based on the novel by Walter Dean Myers. And yep, you guessed it, I haven't read it. Yet. I mean, we do own it like you saw in the thumbnail, so I might crack it open and give it a read. That being said though, I can't tell you what is the same or how the movie deviates from the book. The film has a little bit of an indie or slightly art house aesthetic to it. There are a lot of odd framings and uses of light, but we're seeing it through the lens of Steve. Because he's a student trying to find his style, this is translated sometimes into how we experience the film. I really liked the narration that accompanies the scenes. It's letting us into Steve's head and sometimes even reframing what he's experiencing. The majority of the story takes place in the courtroom, but it's interspersed with a great deal of flashbacks. And through these, we get to learn of the character of Steve. We see his home life, his school life, and those times in between. And it allows us to get to know the character in a relatively short period of time. Steve is played by Kelvin Harrison Jr., and he is just awesome in the lead role. He comes across as sympathetic and trustworthy, but has just enough mystery to him that keeps us in question of his true innocence or guilt. He also has this innocence and naivete in his eyes that really make us want to believe him. The cast also includes Jeffrey Wright, Jennifer Hudson, Jennifer Ill, John David Washington, Tim Blake Nelson, A$AP Rocky, and Jarrell Jerome. Each of these have smaller roles, but some add in meaningful ways. And some also could have been utilized more, but I think this ultimately may only serve to increase the time and not really the quality. And while I liked John David Washington's performance, I think he was almost wasted in this. I mean, not drunk wasted, just underutilized. He wasn't asked to do much, and his scenes didn't really allow him to shine. I like the pace of the story because it didn't feel rushed. We get the time to build out the character of Steve and still have a compelling court drama. And I think a lot of that is due to how those scenes are crafted. This is director Anthony Mandler's feature debut, and his work consists almost exclusively of music videos. So the ability to tell a concise story in a short period of time works to his advantage. The courtroom dialogue sometimes overlaps as questions and answers come from the various lawyers and witnesses. And there's a musical cadence to the overall delivery, and I think it worked really well in this. They take advantage of the 98 minutes and they craft something that is patient but also exciting and emotional. The conversations that are woven throughout the story really stuck out to me as deep. I mean, we'll watch characters talking and then some wisdom will just be dropped. At that moment, the reaction of the other characters is key. Do they listen and soak it in, or do they laugh it off because they can't understand and therefore can't internalize the wisdom that's being handed to them? And all the while throughout this is the theme of storytelling and truth. But not absolute truth, it's relative truth. So what is your truth? How do you shape your story? How are you going to tell your tale? And these are important to consider as the drama unfolds. These questions also play into whether or not we can trust what we as an audience are being told. Is Steve a reliable narrator? He's not a drunk or high on drugs like we see so many stories use to create a questionable character. He's a storyteller. And right there, I love that twist. I mean, I love that we have an upstanding, charismatic, genuinely nice guy as the central character and narrator, but we still have to decide if we believe him. And that makes for some good but subtle drama. So overall, this is a good character drama that features a wonderful performance by Kelvin Harrison Jr. There's some suspense and mystery that come as part of the story, but it's the dialogue that drives this home. I think a few of the supporting characters could have been used more, but they still added meaningful moments to the narrative for the most part. There's no sexual nudity, a lot of profanity, and some brutal violence. I give Monster 4 out of 5 couches. What's a good character drama you've seen recently? I'd love to know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.